So here's the script if you could not read the coming tea leaves yourself. Powerful engines with manual transmissions, fast station wagons that are, say, oh, I don't know, less than 130,000 US, and naturally aspirated V8s are going away. However, I do have some good news to report from the front. A totally new car, well, sort of totally new, with an engine that we know and love for many years, that comes from a car we know and love that is a naturally aspirated V8, has been shoehorned into this. Now, the bad news. This car arrived so early, I can't tell you how it drives today because Lexus says I can't for fear of doing harm to Kumo. So we're gonna hold that off until September 11th. But today, you and I are gonna do a tech review of the 2022 Lexus IS 500. And it's more than just the NAV8 shoehorned into one of their smallest cars. Rather, there's a lot of tricks going on, including this really odd damper we have to discuss. That's what we're going to unpack today. And yes, there is the part that Kumo and I are very excited about. That color is called Grecian blue. So today, no driving impressions, a tech review, and oh, by the way, did I tell you, NAV8. Let's get the headline out of the way right at the top. Lexus has shoehorned their largest engine into one of their smallest cars. That is a naturally aspirated, no turbocharger to be found here, 5-liter V8. That should sound incredibly familiar to you because it is the same engine that is currently on offer in the RCF, the LC500, and also came in the dearly departed GSF. Now this is only on offer as rear-wheel drive. Now that we got that out of the way, let's focus on some of the bits that support the extra power. Let's start with the brakes. You would imagine it would have more stopping power. You would imagine correctly. Like for example, in the front, goes from 13.2-inch diameter rotors to 14 inches. In the rear, goes from 11.7 to 12.7. Now for the avoidance of doubt, there is no carbon ceramic rotor option on offer, at least yet, and I don't see why they would have it on this vehicle. Then we got to focus on the suspension. Now, of course, there's all sorts of adjustability for the throttle mapping, the steering, the transmission, and of course, the dampers. However, there's something interesting in the back. There's two things going on back there. Number one, there is a torsion limited slip differential, obviously to handle the extra power and to send the power from side to side. However, something far more interesting. So you know Yamaha, motorcycle company, pianos, the people that used to make the engine in the first Taurus SHO. Well, they make a damper for this thing. It's laterally mounted into the car. And yes, I can't tell you about driving impressions today, but I can share the theory, at least what Yamaha has shared with me about this damper. The concept is like two different focal points. So yes, this is a Lexus, and one of the focal points is to make it drive more like a Lexus over the road around town. So think more compliance. But then say on our shoot road, where you and I drive more aggressively, the idea is to maintain more composure, and that is something we're gonna have to spend some time focusing on in the full first drive review on September 11th. However, speaking of our shoot road, we should discuss something else, and let's start with the interior. And there, it's virtually no different than the one we've already driven, the IS with the 6-cylinder, but it just picks up from what the F-Sport package on that car was, meaning it's got the more performance-oriented supportive seats, color and trim, it's like those seats. But overall, the big win here, it's the same UX design from the IS, which I would argue is one of the best out there because it has real knobs, real switches, and there are things that are legible, like an analog clock. And yeah, there's a screen, which all the kids want these days, but it's not this thing that's like in your face. The only thing I'm gonna complain about, and this is overall IS, not just IS 500, and that is this trackpad. It's terrible. Please, oh please, oh please, change it. I can't believe I'm saying this, but pilfer the UX from BMW. They've been at it for 20 plus years, and they have it down to a science. They're probably the best with a unified controller, use a knob here instead of this, and I think the overall thing would be about perfect. Then there's the exterior. That's a bit more bold, but still it falls under the heading of don't let them see you coming. The biggest thing you noticed is the hood. There's a power bulge on the hood, which I have to say you need to see in person to really understand the effect. Then there's the quad exhaust in the back. We'll discuss that when we're doing the full first drive review next month. And of course, that brings us to the wheels. Biggest difference in terms of what's noticeable to most folks. They are a satin finish wheel, which looks pretty cool, but notice the design changes, and they're manufactured by Enki, not in-house by Lexus or some like nondescript tier 1 OEM supplier. The big thing that goes on here is they're a bit lighter than the wheels that come on that F-Sport. Yeah, they're both 19s, but these are 19s that are a pound lighter at each corner, and that's unsprung weight. Now, there is a special launch edition that's on offer, and that launch edition, that can be had with BBS wheels. They're not like the old school, like cross-lace BBS wheels. They're kind of like a 5-spoke. I like the way they look a bit better, but those are 4 pounds lighter at each corner. So about that launch edition, yes, they're only going to make 500. However, it's not just the wheels that change. There are some color and trim changes that go along with it. First and foremost would be the exterior color. It's something called Incognito, and I have not seen it in person, but looking at it in pictures, it is definitely close to an Audi Battleship Gray or like the ceramic color we've seen on Porsches, not quite that light. Then on the inside of the vehicle, it takes some of the color and trim, at least the texture, from the Mount Fuji edition where they have the Ultra Suede on the seats. Then there's the concept of pricing, and this is where Kumo and I had to sign our lives away. We can't share that with you until September 11th, but we can give you a guideline here. Now, first and foremost, this is a Lexus that will not have options. Most Lexus, one can pick up like the Mark Levinson sound system or a sunroof or the triple beam headlights. I don't know why it's a big deal in the Lexus world, but it is. This will only be on offer in 2 trim levels. There's a basic car, interestingly, will be fitted with a moonroof as standard. And then there's the premium car, which this car is. And it really only groups together a couple of things that would be optional. Like, for example, the Mark Levinson sound system, the power rear sunshade, the navigation system, and of course, the triple beam headlights. And to give you an idea, the triple beam headlights, they're not cheap on, say, a Lexus ES. They're about $1,500. The navigation and Mark Levinson and other Lexus, that's about a $3,000 option. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a stab at what the base price is going to be on this car. If you look at a current RCF, that's about 65 grand. But then let's look over to Germany, BMW M3. That, the current one, the one we just drove, that's about $73,000, $74,000 in base price. But the car you and I drove had every single option. Those carbon fiber seats, carbon ceramic brakes, the paint option, it was about 105 grand. I do not think Lexus is trying to accomplish that with this car. I don't even think they're trying to replace the GSF. And if you remember that one, the last one we drove was like $86,000 to $89,000 with a lot of options. I'm thinking this is going to be somewhere between 65 and say 75, depending on which trim level it is. And that brings us to the wish list. And here, I really can't share a lot with you because we haven't driven it together, or at least we haven't talked about the way it drives, but I can share some design details. Overall, I am one of the people that likes the update to the IS. The only thing I am asking Suga-san for here, let's put some more color on the inside of the car. This is a wonderful color. It is called Grecian blue, may I say Efkaristo, but it needs a better contrast on the inside, maybe a light gray, a cool saddle would be perfect in this thing. I even go for the Goomba choice and go with red. Maybe even like a two-tone red. Let's try that. We just need a splash of color in there. I'm sure I will add to this wish list in the full first drive review. And this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And once again, I would like to humbly remind you, I would greatly appreciate your help with the algorithm. Yes, that is hitting like, subscribe, notification, and most importantly, sharing this episode with all your friends on your socials. Until I see you in the next episode, bish began.